Quentin, a local journalist, starts investigating the recent disappearance of multiple children in the town of Ravenbrooks, suspecting no other than Mr. Peterson to be the culprit, despite having gone missing under strange circumstances himself. As Quentin digs deeper, he comes across horrifying discoveries, unable to identify whether they are real or part of his recurring nightmares. Hi folks, I'm R and welcome to the video. Make sure to send me your game suggestions on Twitter, which I could cover in the upcoming videos. This video will have spoilers about all of the installments. With that said, let's begin. The story follows the events of the first game after the tragic death of Diane, Mr. Peterson's wife, and his daughter Maya, who died after being accidentally pushed from the roof by her brother Aaron. This leads to Mr. Peterson locking Aaron in the house to protect them from media and authorities, the only family member he's got left not reporting the death of Maya, burying her in the backyard, which the neighborhood believes to has gone missing. That's when Nikki Roth, the friend of Aaron, snoops around Mr. Peterson's house, uncovering his secrets that Aaron is not in fact missing, but that he has been imprisoned by Mr. Peterson. Theodore Peterson, noticing Nikki, he captures him and locks him in the basement, containing parts of his work. Designing a rollercoaster ride, he tries to recollect his thoughts and think of what to do. Unable to come up with a good plan, Peterson keeps Nikki locked in, with time passing quickly until a couple of months pass, with Nikki being in a bad state of care. Eventually, Aaron helps Nikki escape, who runs back home and reports Mr. Peterson of having had kidnapped him. Mr. Peterson, losing people whom he cared about so much, being left only with an angered and mentally unstable Aaron, knowing that he's soon to be arrested for kidnapping Nikki, he himself starts losing his mind and becoming unhinged when something snaps in his mind. Sometime later, Quentin, a local journalist who's investigating the cause of the missing children disappearance, suspecting Mr. Peterson to be the culprit, especially as he's been acting very strange, he begins his investigation, starting with a barn house. He climbs over the roof of the barn house when he drops through a hole on the roof, miraculously surviving the fall. Quentin seems to know a man dressed in a raven suit, dubbed as the Raven Man or as the Guest, who has been kidnapping children in the town, which he suspects to be no other than the notorious Mr. Peterson. The Raven Man lurking around, Quentin tricks him with a child dummy, managing to take photographs of him, intending to kidnap the dummy, which angers the Raven Man, who captures Quentin. That's when Quentin jumps out of his nap while driving, revealing that the Raven Man is a recurring nightmare of Quentin, whom he doesn't know just yet to whether exist or not, whether being a figment of his imagination or an actual person, when he has a near-miss collision with a car that has already been damaged due to a previous collision, only having one headlight working. This car resembles the car of Mr. Peterson, which is later revealed to be his, which sustained the damage after colliding with the ice cream truck some time ago, leading to the death of his wife Diane. Entering the Ravenbrooks town, the lampposts are littered with missing posters of Maya and Aaron, Nikki, and some other children who went trick-and-treating on a Halloween night, with a couple of cops being present at Mr. Peterson's residence investigating the disappearances. Mr. Peterson himself seems to be missing, with people suspecting that he's the culprit behind the children's disappearance, having had turned against him. Meanwhile, there seems to be a private investigator involved in Mr. Peterson's case, trying to discover his whereabouts and confirm that he's been the culprit behind the children going missing, unveiling the secrets of what happened to them. Arriving at the news station he's working for, he manages to connect the disappearances of Nikki, Maya, and Aaron to Mr. Peterson when he decides to collect more evidence in order to find the whereabouts of Maya and Aaron. After managing to distract the cops roaming in the abandoned house of Mr. Peterson, Quentin enters Mr. Peterson's house, observing that it is an active crime scene with the basement door heavily reinforced in order to keep people securely locked in. Managing to break into the basement, Quentin witnesses child toys and a place to sleep on, discovering that Mr. Peterson in fact had been keeping a child in the basement. Alongside the toys, he finds a Halloween crow costume, a costume that one of the 3 missing children wore as well. Getting out through the hatch door from behind the house, that's when he comes across a child grave, coming to the shocking conclusion that it belongs to no other than Maya, Mr. Peterson's daughter, who died after a tragic fall from the roof. On his penboard, connecting each individual event and location to each other, Quentin solves the whereabouts of Maya and Nikki, with Nikki being back home after escaping the confines of Mr. Peterson, and Maya unfortunately being buried in the background of Mr. Peterson's residence. Only one missing child case left unsolved, the whereabouts of Aaron and also the whereabouts of Mr. Peterson himself. Quentin notices the curtains of a higher level window of the museum being pulled open, witnessing in shock Mr. Peterson looking around, clearly hiding in the museum after being wanted by the police for kidnapping Nikki. After collecting some more evidence, Quentin finds blueprints of a device construction creating easy access to a loft that exists in the museum where Mr. Peterson was seen hiding. A sketch of a father grounding his child going to the loft is also found, pointing out that Mr. Peterson is seemingly keeping Aaron locked in the loft, with people not knowing that Aaron is in fact the reason why Maya fell from the roof, and believing that Mr. Peterson is a maniac who kidnaps children and locks them in, even suspecting that he killed his daughter. The museum seemingly being long abandoned and in a state of disrepair. It is locked to the public, with the mayor of the town having the access key to it. Quentin subsequently breaks into the mayor's house and collects the key to the museum, noticing that despite the building being abandoned, it still has running electricity, with the sketch of the father grounding his son to go to the loft also being present, which all conveniently point out towards Mr. Peterson living here. Quentin's speculations are proved to be correct as he witnesses Mr. Peterson living in the building, seemingly trying to prevent people from finding something that he's hiding. Maybe Aaron, whom he's locked in the loft. After working out some of the complex mechanics Mr. Peterson has designed, Quentin finds a strange key which lets him open the loft. As he opens the door to the loft, he notices a child behind the curtains, with them crying quietly. Just as he's about to pull the curtains and see behind it, he's captured by the crowman or the guest, bringing the beta to an end. Thanks to a channel called Video Game News, using the out-of-bounds camera, looking behind the curtain, it's revealed that the shadow doesn't belong to Aaron, with nothing other than a cutout board being present and a speaker mimicking child cry sounds. This seems to have been an elaborate trap set up for anyone snooping around to be caught by Mr. Peterson, or as seen by the end, the crowman or the guest. The whereabouts of Aaron are still undiscovered, unclear to what happened to him after helping Nikki escape the confines of Mr. Peterson. Aside from many unanswered questions, some of the most intriguing ones are who is the crowman and why he kidnaps the children. The trailers and the plot seems to want to make us believe that Theodore Peterson is the crowman and he is the one who is kidnapping the kids. However, according to the first game and hide and seek, there is no reason for him to do so, with him only keeping Nikki in the basement because he uncovered his secrets. Nonetheless, I believe after Mr. Peterson went through losing 2 of his family members, Diane and Maya, with his son Aaron having had become aggressive and being the culprit for Maya's death, something snapped in his head, causing him to create the guest, the crowman, in his mind, unintentionally and unknowingly switching personalities into this entity who kidnaps children. The reason to why his alter ego chooses to kidnap children might have to do something with him losing his daughter Maya and essentially his son Aaron, who already struggled coping with the loss of his mother, let alone knowing that he was the culprit of his sister's death. Despite the uncertainty to what happened to Aaron, it is very likely that he lost his mind according to how much he changed after losing his mother, with Mr. Peterson possibly hiding him somewhere to keep him safe. The alter ego of Mr. Peterson possibly kidnaps children to fill the void of having lost his children, making up for something he lacks, hence why in parts of an alpha, he is seen being trapped in a room as if he cannot move on from the tragedy he experienced. That's it for this video, folks. I'm quite invested in the Hello Neighbors lore, and I'm probably going to finish reading the books to make more subsequent videos. It's been your host Star, and I will see you on the next one.